welcome to anyone who wants to hang out with me today. Um, and maybe I'll talk about some things too, just in my mind. Um, I had mentioned that I had thoughts around like ideas around why making art, like why do why do people make art, or just like why should I make art at all? It's obviously not about money. If it was, doing something different. Um, just gonna let things kind of settle in my mind though. Things are a lot going on, and so carving always helps me clear my mind a little bit. Sometimes the act of doing is really helpful, and I find that just in most things in life, if you're struggling with decision making or figuring something out, or you're just like putting something off, like there's always the best thing for it is just to do something, and not just do anything. I mean, do something with your hands. Do something physical with your body. Go for a walk. Um, those things are always super helpful to me to get the juices flowing, so to speak. And I think that part of the reason is that we kind of come back into ourselves, into our physical selves, rather than rather than our like conceptual or mental self. And it's so easy to get caught up in the things that we think. I know I'm certainly guilty of this, and you spend so much time thinking, what should I do? Or this is happening and how should I respond? Or just any number of things. And I think that's one of the reasons I like the process too, like a printmaking process. Printmaking process kind of like it definitely gives it gives some space around the making. It's not all. I mean, many processes have this, but like it's not all about the idea, or like what your image is about, or um, drawing. This is just some of it is just making making things happen physically on the block that needs to be done, and it takes time. Patience isn't a thing that is always easy, and it's helpful to learn patience, choosing to be patient. Just kind of like when you choose to eat good food, or you choose to exercise your body, or anything else like that. Hmm. And sometimes when things aren't clear to me, what's happening on the image, I come back in, like I mentioned before. think there's stuff going on here. And yeah, that's behind that. Sometimes I get too much into the key block too, as far as like detail. But where I added too much detail in this key block, and I wanted to represent some of that detail with a different color or maybe a different block, but just can't help myself. Just gotta put it in there. I think kind of would dovetail nicely into kind of some of my thoughts around like why make art, and really just why do anything, because it's when I recognize too, the more I make art and the more I'm person living in this world, reflecting on my where I am in my own personal, kind of, I guess you could say, spiritual experiences, that it's not about, for me anyway, it doesn't feel like it's about the end result. The end result of what you're doing is temporal. Even when you make something to last, I mean, very few things last forever, and so in that way, what is it that we are actually doing when we create? We create a thing that is going to go away, and so that forces me to reflect on the idea that, what if it's not about the thing that we create? What if it's just about the the process, the journey, the learning, the reflection, the finding of meaning? I've been thinking a lot about that lately too. I did some listening and a little bit of reading on universal consciousness, which is interestingly an idea that I resonate with. Always thought about things in similar terms artistically, as far as the undercurrents of experience, or the things that people can, the things that people respond to, that are um, part of our universal understanding. I don't want to jump around too much, but all that to say is that I think that, where was it? Just the journey itself is the thing that is important. And like I said, the search for, you know understanding and meaning, and it kind of goes goes in that direction, I guess. Like, we all have a desire to understand. It's part of why we are, as a people, tend to categorize. We see a thing, we see a person, we see a book or a piece of art, um, or anything else, and we categorize it in our minds almost immediately. Like, oh, this is a this thing, or this person is like this. And all of a sudden now we think we know this person, or we know what this thing is about, or what its purpose is, when in fact, we we don't know enough about that thing to really categorize or know anything about what that thing's purpose is. It's difficult to know a thing's purpose. Um, but so that just means we're just to me that says we're striving to understand. Once we get to a point of understanding of something, once we really have spent time with it and understand that thing, that is when we start to develop some meaning around it. And it's personal meaning, because it's only, you can only ever have your own meaning of it in your own internal space. It was, thought it was a nice expression, or kind of a way to think about it, is I can't express to my children my actual love for them. They can't know that. They're not inside of me. The best I can do is to kind of paint a picture for them, give them an idea through my words, my actions, maybe my art. So that's what we're doing. It's what we're doing when we create. We are creating this limited picture of our internal world. And I do think that the deeper you go into that idea, the more that you do recognize that this internal world is larger than the scope of a single person, entity, or thing. These are all musings I'm just talking through here, but I think, and hopefully you can hear okay. I have the microphone over there, but I'm talking kind of slow and quiet on this rainy day, but I love all of this. Now, of course, some things will last, and we all want to create something that we think will last. There's appeal in that. That's part and partial to our human condition as well. I think it's part of why our desire for our children, to have children, even. Um, what is it? What is it that we want to leave the world with? And then then you can also think about how is it? Do we leave the world? What is this world? What are we really? It seems a little existential, maybe, um, but I think it all applies. I don't think anything is not connected to another thing. I think about these things, and so that informs my work. It informs what I do, the patterns of my own personal behavior, just like you have all of those things that influence the things that you do, and that's excellent, because everybody needs. I mean, it. I don't. I'm not saying these things so that people subscribe to my way of thinking. I'm just saying these things because I think it's important that people think about things, um, or at least recognize how they influence their being, and not only their being, but also what they choose to do, and as artists, what we choose to create. And sometimes we'll just whittle a space down, like kind of like you're cross hatching almost. Let's see how that looks when I proof it. I do think that as far as like, the question of what are we? I mean, what are we really? We get into thinking about the science of it if we want, or anything like that. But interestingly, I think that at a certain level, I said, I think all things, there's no real separation between science and the practice of the spirit. We feel like we're all energy. And if that's the case, then this body is just a temporal thing. In science, energy remains. Change is the constant. It's like the I Ching, the book of changes. So I make work for the process, the journey. Because that's what's important to me. This is where I find my understanding. And then further on, I find the meaning. It's part of the reason I work in the way that I do, and I've spoken about it before, but this is the beginning of this image. This is not a fully conceived image yet. Right now I'm working on the physical qualities of this wood block that will be printed. And I've drawn some characters and representational things into this image. And in a way, it's speaking to me as I go. It's like this is saying this is what you should do next. And I'm not talking about big things. I'm talking about all of the little things. Seeing different ways the wood reacts to my knife, and the actual wood block that I'm carving, and how that, once I'm actually carving, responds to the image and the cuts that I'm making. When it's all done, I can also come back to it, and it'll still speak to me. I listen. And that's usually when the meaning comes for me. And it's different for people that come to it as a finished piece of art. Coming to something as a finished piece of art is a completely different experience. Let's see here, because I think when you come to it as a individual piece of art, or as a finished piece of art, I should say, um, you haven't got the meaning all figured out, but you have given somebody a little bit of a shortcut into your process, into that personal journey that they can share, that they haven't gone on, but you have. And that's definitely the appeal of having that. I mean, the hope is that maybe even you inspire someone to go on their own internal journey. At least that's my hope. But even if they don't, oops, I think it's I know this is vitally important for me. This is because this is my journey, and that's enough, and it should be enough. Should be enough for you. And I don't. My big hope is that nobody feels like their art isn't enough, or that it's not good enough. That makes me sad, because everyone's work is their own personal journey, and it's good enough. No question in my mind. It's not a question of good or bad. It's a question of to go on this journey or to not. It's a question of courage. I'll just look and see if anyone dropped anything in the chat. Feel free. I know that just as an aside, can't really. The Patreon live stream, I like. It's easy to do, but it doesn't show me everybody that's on, and it doesn't um, give people place to necessarily to like video chat. Not that we need to video chat with everybody, but if you're on, great. If you're not, that's okay too. I will definitely post this when it's all done, so that anybody who wants to check it out can. Oh, like that. I feel like I need to do some more over here. It keeps getting smudged out. I love the look of pencil. So I've talked a little bit about why I make art and a little bit about lots of things, none of which is, hardly any of which is actual carving instruction. But that's okay. That's just the way today is going. Feels that. I feel that from the day. Maybe that's why I decided to do a little live stream. I don't know. I feel like this right down here, the badger sitting on this rock with this little girl. Just overlooking this valley, this waterfall behind. Maybe that's what I need to do next. Is just going to finish this rock wall. At the end of this little stream, I will turn this camera around so you can kind of maybe see a little bit from the front what's going on. Maybe be a little bit easier to see some things. There's a desire to want to be recognized, want people to see what you're doing, want people to appreciate your work. That validation piece. I'm not going to say that's not important because it is. It is important. But I hope people also see too is it's not just receiving the validation that's important. It's giving the validation to others. It's a powerful act. And you get out of this world what you put into it. And that's one of the it's one of the important ways to work on your art. And I know it seems like, oh, that's not practical advice, but boy, I think we need to get over the idea that all practical advice seems provable and tangible. This is something that works, something that has no distinct timing, and yet makes immense amounts of difference in people's lives. maybe I will go for it here. This block has some really interesting patterning in it. A friend made these blocks for me. Just regular old American cherry. Yeah. We'll likely print this block multiple times. And initially, I was going to do some real depth that I want to achieve here, and I feel like I always have this, but maybe it's just lately. There's the badger and the girl in the foreground, and these little trees here. Really, you just see the tops of them, and then the underneath is this mist. So it's unclear, but it's far away, it's far below. It's a beautiful thing. There's a spot relatively near here, called Linville Gorge. It's just a beautiful spot that will have these, where you can have this vantage over top of like the woods below. This particular image was, I had the real genuine pleasure to be able to get to Yosemite Park a few years back, and this was partly based on a couple of sketches I did on some of the waterfalls there, and yeah, just the idea of looking into seeing the mist. I don't know how long people want to watch me carve. I think it's good to see I mentioned this last time too, but I do think it's important to see just the time in real time, not like a sped up something or. It's not like a sketch. It's one of the things that the reason I stuck with printmaking was that sometimes when I sketch, I don't think about the whole image. And the but here, this process is forced to consider everything. And I have the opportunity to consider everything because of the process, because of the time. Get to consider the top of this little basket handle, to consider all of these things. Now, of course, I could speed through this as well if I wanted, but the process lends itself. I'm going to say it demands, but the process lends itself to that self-evaluation, or that evaluation as you go. I think, and just like all things that are useful, is like, I think that it's also important for habit for all of us to evaluate where we are, bit by bit, where we are in this moment. I'm not in a moment where this is a complete image, but this is a fascinating and fantastic place to be. And would I rather skip this? I mean, to me, the answer is no. And it's because there's discovery happening here. There's evaluation, and from evaluation comes understanding, and from understanding comes that meaning I was talking about earlier. I also like talking like this, and it helps sometimes me to clarify some of my thoughts and speaking them out loud. Right, I'm not sure what time it is, but I don't know how long we've been going. I'm not ready to finish carving, so I might as well just leave it going for a little while. the vantage is okay for you seeing carving. Probably the best vantage would be right on top of my head, but I don't have that right now. I didn't even check to see who could see this video. Shoot. Wouldn't mind everybody being able to see the live streams. What I had thought. And if anybody had thoughts on that, just let me know. All right. I think I'm going to take a break on this. Need to get up and stretch my legs. All right. So thanks for everybody that came out to check out this last minute live stream. And again, sorry about the disruption earlier. But yeah, I really appreciate everybody. So just wanted to let you know. All right. Thanks so much.